What is going on, guys, and welcome to the channel. Today I have a half sword video for you guys. It's going to be kind of like a guide or an explanation of the different mechanics in the game and then how to use them. Now, half sword, it has a pretty high skill ceiling, and a lot of people's gameplay just kind of looks like this, where they're flailing around like a drunken chicken, but there actually is a lot of complexity here and an extremely high skill ceiling. And I want to just kind of go over the mechanics that you guys need to understand if you want to do well in the game and play it a little bit more tactically and precise. And what I like so much about Half Sword is the combat. It's kind of like a sandbox where you can learn the mechanics and then you can kind of develop your own play style where you can express your skill in the way that you like the best. So I'm really excited to see if you guys want to post any clips after watching the video of what you're able to do in the game. All right, let's get into it. And before we start, I always say if you feel like you don't have any control over your weapon in the game, please go into the settings and move your mouse sensitivity down all the way to the left. I play in the middle of the M and I'm at 800 DPI, so it's pretty low, but it feels so much cleaner and better to play with. Now, I think the first thing for us to start off with is our stance. So, of course, we click our left click and notice I'm standing very, very rigid, straight up in the air, not looking very athletic here. So I hit my shift key, which is my sprint key, to bring my legs kind of down in a more athletic stance. And this is what allows us to dodge and move quickly. And now the sprint key is one of those things that you really should be on pretty often in the combat. You do have stamina, but I think the sprint key is really what allows things to go. And the second thing we want to look at is our hand position. I like this position with my right leg kind of in front and my sword angled a little bit off of the side because that's what I'm going to use for my defense. Now, if you look, as I move my sword over this side, I do switch stances to where I have my left foot out in front, and I don't really like that. I find I get hit a little bit too much in the hands, so I like this kind of right foot forward stance. And now the reason we talk about our stance so much in this game is because that's what makes the defense happen. A lot of people have asked me, well, how do you actually block attacks in this game? Because there's no set block button like you have in Chivalry or Mordhau. So there are two types of really parrying or blocking here. So when we're in our guard stance like this, there's something called passive parry. And that means while our weapon is up here, it's almost like aim assist in, say, Call of Duty. So Willie, he doesn't want to die. So if a strike is coming at you, and you're kind of in the general area of it with your defense, he's going to guide you a little bit to intercept that blade and just kind of nudge it off the line, right? Passive parry will only work, though, when you're in this fighting stance with your sword in front of you. If I have my weapon all the way up here, he's not going to passive parry. If I have my weapon all the way out here ready to swing, he's also not going to passive parry, so you don't really have any defense. All right. Now, the other way that you can block is you anticipate and see a strike coming at you, and you go flick it out of the way. This is called your active parry, right? So you see a strike coming and just block it right out of the way, and then you can come back with the attack that you so desire. Now, if you want to have a good defense in half sword, you want to use a mix of those passive parries, the active parries, and dodging and moving with some footwork, right? That's the best way to stay alive, is to, of course, avoid strikes, but parrying is super, super satisfying. Now, there is an element of kind of like prediction or reading enemies' movements in this game if you want to have a good defense. And basically what that looks like is it's a physics-based game. So the player model who you're fighting is going to have to wind up and swing their attack. So a lot of times you'll see bots running around kind of like this, or with their weapon up here or out to the side. And what this allows you to do is you can say with pretty much certainty where the next strike is gonna come. So if my guy has a strike, let's say he's over on this side, right? Sorry, I'll put some arrows there. I can start just kind of edging my blade over in that direction to intercept it, and I can be also ready for my active parry to block it as soon as I see him start to swing, and then coming back with my riposte. Now, as you get a little bit more used to the bots and the weapons you use, you'll notice that they like to swing from certain directions with certain weapons, so you can kind of predict that and read based off their body movements, like those one-handed maces like to come kind of with those overhead strikes, so we can kind of pre-position a little bit like this when we see them winding up, so that we're ready to intercept it. Now let's talk about offense a little bit. Now we do have full control over where our weapon is going to go with our mouse, right? But I think you can still think of your attacks in kind of directions where you have overhands, you have horizontals, and then you have diagonals down and up, right? So you have slashes, right? You have diagonals, you have straight overheads, and then of course you do have stabs, which we'll get over to in a second. Now, do not sleep on diagonal base strikes. They're some of the strongest in the game because you can land right on your opponent's necks. But a lot of times, horizontals and diagonals are going to be your bread and butter in this game. Now, overheads can be nice too, right? But the problem with them is a lot of enemies have helmets and you wind up landing clean on their helmet, so you're not finding a gap in the armor. So, depending on what your own opponent is looking like, they're not always going to be helpful. Now, a lot of people ask me how to stab in this game. There are two ways, right? And the first way is to double click your mouse, okay, which sticks your blade straight out in the air like this. And I know a lot of people's initial feeling is like, what in the hell is going on? Like, he's just standing here with his blade out. It's so weird. It doesn't feel natural, right? But it does actually come forward. It's just you got to time it right and anticipate it. But the blade does come forward, right? And what I like to tell people is you can do that. And if you time it as someone's coming in, they can either run into your blade as it's coming out, or if you time it a little poorly, you can sprint right into the guy too. If you're, let's say, a few inches short, which I know some of you guys had that problem, right? You can use that method of stabbing to get a kill. Now, my preferred method of stabbing is holding down the Alt key on your keyboard, where you're gonna have, then it like kind of pulls it back like in a stabbing stance, and then you just lean your mouse from backwards to forward, just how you would swing a horizontal. And I prefer that method of just kind of holding it here and then boom. Like it feels a little bit more like you're throwing an actual strike. That is a highly preferred method for me, but they're both effective and can be used at different times. Now, you can kick in this game, and kicking is super overpowered, but in the settings, it doesn't tell you how to actually do it. So a ton of people ask me on TikTok and YouTube, how do I actually kick? And it's super simple, spacebar, and you can go boom. Now, people have done some crazy stuff with jumping, spinning back kicks with this and high sensitivity, but it you don't need to go that level, but it works great just to bam, put your opponent right down to the ground. It's a very, very good attack. Works great with a shield. All right, speaking of offensive maneuvers, you can also actually throw your weapon. The game doesn't tell you how to do this either, so I'm going to tell you how now. It's a little tricky to be accurate with it, but basically, so I'm going to pull my weapon back like I'm going to do a slash, and then I'm going to whip it forward, but while I'm doing that, you're going to hit your grab key, which is either Q or E. So if you have a weapon in your right hand, you would hit E. If it's in your left hand, you hit Q. And as you come forward, you just hit E and it goes flying out of your hand. Now you can do this with any of your weapons. You can do it with an overhead. That was a little bit easier with my dagger. Let me get my other weapon out here, right? All right, so here I'm going with an overhead, and I'm coming straight down, and I'm releasing Q or pressing Q as I do it. And overhead's probably a little bit better than horizontals, but you can throw the weapon in any way that you would like, and you can get some super cool kills with it. Now, on the topic of grabbing, right, I'll probably get some peasant in, but you can use the Q button or the E button to grab your opponent, right? Which then allows you to grapple and use your weapon to keep them kind of under control or off balance. This works really well if you're fighting someone with a one-handed weapon, right? And you can grab them on the side that they have the weapon on, and then you can start using your weapon to chop or punching away at them in the head. You can even mix kicks in there, and a lot of times it gets them down onto the ground. And if you do get them onto the ground, you can even crouch and grab them while they're down there and can continue popping away at them. Now, there's one last offensive maneuver I want to show you guys, and I wanted to switch to a longer weapon to do that here, and that is the use of our change hands key, or our X key, right? So I have my weapon kind of up here where it would be a left to right strike. If I hit X, I now switch my hands, and it's now a right to left strike, and we can reverse that kind of back. And what's kind of cool about this is you can kind of do it mid-swing and then do some kind of real tricky kind of plays on it, right? I'm here and I'm switching, boom. And it's almost like you're fainting, right? So I can come over from the top and I can mid swing, just switch my weapon, didn't land, and then I go down for his feet. This is a great way to confuse the bot. Again, we can do it from this side too, mid swing, and then I come back with my left side. It's super, super tricky, and I think it looks kind of cool as you do it. You just got to be careful if you hit it too many times in a short window. Let's see if I can do it. I don't know if I'm going to, but your hands can get very mixed up and caught behind your back and look absolutely crazy. Of course, he doesn't want to do it now, but you got to be careful if you're using it too much in a crazy fight. It will get all sorts of nutty and you will hit nothing. All right, guys, that's it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope it was helpful, and I hope it gets you from someone who's fumbling around in half sword to someone who's able to make some pretty cool kills and have a lot of fun in the game. All right, if you enjoyed the video, subscribe, champ out.